I literally just put her to bed, and it literally took me 2 seconds to put her to bed. It is so easy. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone SRNA, and I'm back with a new video. Thank you so much for tuning in and returning. And if you're new here, don't forget to make sure you click that subscribe button and join the family. Make sure you click that bell notification where you're notified every time I upload, and let's get into the video. So first things first, I do want to say thank you so much. We finally reached 1,000 subscribers, so I'm super excited, and I'm super grateful for each and every one of you that have subscribed and have continuously watched my videos and my content. So I just wanted to shout out and say a huge thank you. However, but for today's video, we're going to be talking about sleep training. My last video, I had talked about, you know, how sleep training was very important to me in my schedule, and how sleep training my daughter at such a young age was perfect for my schedule as of right now. I literally just put her to bed, and it literally took me 2 seconds to put her to bed. It is so easy and so effortless. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to share my tips, my resources, things that have really helped me, things that may not have helped me so much, but it's really just what has worked for me in the last 10 months and what I will continue to do until she gets older. So if you're interested, then let's get into this video. So I have talked about this book on my channel, I believe in like my first beginning videos when I was like almost a year ago when I started SRNA school, which is unbelievably crazy that June will make a year I've been in school, but wow. Anyways, this was a book that was like very necessary in my sleep training routine, but I will probably post a better picture here. But the book is entitled 12 Hours Sleep by 12 Weeks Old. And I will also list the book and everything down in the description box below. But this was like my Bible. I didn't use every single thing, but majority of everything I used was based off this book. So this book basically talks about and breaks down by weeks of sleep training your child and different things like that. So I will share some of the things that I found very helpful and some of the things that I use. One thing I do want to say is this book is an extremely easy read. I think I maybe read this in a week. Not super dense. It's really straight to the point, which is what I like. But she basically splits it up by weeks. So it's 1 through 6, 6 through 8, and 8 to 12. So different sections for what you need to do. Now, this is not everything is not saying that everything is going to be done by 12 weeks. Like, oh, your baby by 12 weeks is going to be sleeping 12 hours a day. My child did not. It wasn't until July that she slept 12 hours during the day. And I kind of, you know, share my thoughts about that and why. But every baby is different. But I honestly would have to say by the time your baby is 5 to 6 months of age, they for sure should be sleeping 12 hours throughout the night, no interruptions, anything like that, with the exception of when they do go through their sleep regression. If you don't know what that is, it's basically when your child is in their growing phase, they're reaching milestones or getting ready to learn new things. Their brain is just filled with all these wonderful things that they're learning, and they just get cranky. So it exhibits in many different ways. Your child may wake up in the middle of the night. Your child may wake up late, go to sleep later, more crankier, things of that nature. And they last between anywhere from, I would say, 3 days to up to a week, maybe even longer. And then they often say that the sleep regressions are either 4 months of age, 6 months, and then either 8, 9, or 10, depending on like where your baby falls in that little spectrum. I'm not saying that they go through it every month, but just like the time between the ages of 8 months, 9 months, or 10 months, they go through another sleep regression. So my child, she went through her sleep regression, well, right around like 6 to 8 weeks, she went through one. And then 4 months, 6 months, and then she just went through one like 9.5 months is when she went through her sleep regression. And her like symptoms or anything like that was that she was super fussy, super cranky. She woke up in the middle of the night. That was a big thing. And then she wouldn't go back to sleep maybe an hour later, or sometimes she would just be up, which would be so frustrating. as well, but it's only for a few days. But the key to those sleep regressions is staying on schedule. So starting from the beginning, of course, like when you first get your baby, enjoy every minute of those first 6 weeks. So for me and my routine for the first 6 weeks, I co-slept with my baby. I know that's like a big thing about no, don't co-sleep or anything like that, but it worked for me. It was fine. Like, it worked for me. So do what's best for you. But I know this book does talk about during the first 6 weeks to have your baby sleep in the crib. I know some people that have done it this way and it's worked fine with them. However, for me, I just felt more comfortable having my baby sleep next to me. So she slept in a dock-a-thon next to me while I breastfed her. It was easy for me just to like wake up, breastfeed her, put her on the breast, and do it that way for the first 6 weeks. However, one thing that this book does talk about that I lived by was jotting down everything. An app that I used was the Glow Baby app. I will insert a picture right here, but it was amazing. I literally jotted down when she went to sleep, when she ate, how much she ate, and you can even do, if you're breastfeeding, you can put how much she, you know, ate from each breast. You can put that, the time there when you start, finish, all her poops, all of her diapers, all of that. I did that for about 6 months till I for sure got her on a strict schedule. And I say it's very helpful because you start to track, you know, what she's eating, her routine. You start to get used to her routine, how many poops she's having a day, what diapers she's having, and it works. I'm telling you. One thing I do have to say is track your baby's feeding schedule, eating schedule, sleeping schedule, because even based off of that, I started to notice a trend as to when she started going through her sleep regressions, whether she would eat less on a certain day or sleep more. That's how I started to, those are my cues to cue me, oh, she may be going through a sleep regression. And that is something that really helped. And it's going to help you when it comes time to you implementing that sleep training method. It is imperative that you know like your baby's schedule and how much she's eating throughout that time period. And if you are breastfeeding, of course, like put her on the breast as much as you can. But one thing that this book really does talk about is bottle feeding her. Now, not saying that you absolutely have to, but you can sleep train her while you're breastfeeding. And that's another good thing this book does say, you know, does advocate as well, is if you're breastfeeding, you don't have to necessarily keep pumping or anything like that. You can definitely still follow this regimen as well as you're breastfeeding, if that's something that you want to do. I couldn't breastfeed for as long as I wanted to because I had a low supply. So I did have to eventually switch her over to formula, which is what I eventually did. But if you're interested in like sleep training and breastfeeding as well, this book does give you some really great tips. But for the first 6 weeks, love on your baby, like do all those things that you want to do. Hold your baby, do it all, because that's your time to like bond with your child. So for the next 2 weeks, so the 6 to 8 week mark is where you really want to start cracking down on your schedule. So about this 6 to 8 week mark, your baby should be eating, I believe the book says every 3 hours. So your baby should be on an every 3 hour feed. So normally first 6 weeks, they're on a 2 hour schedule, feeding every 2 hours. So those 6 to 8 weeks, you want to really push your babies to eat every 3 hours. So what I normally did is I would push her. If she wasn't feeding every 2, I would push her. And the book does give you some really good cues as to how you can push her that extra hour, whether you pop a pacifier in her mouth, you rock her, you play with her, you kind of keep her distracted for that next hour. They do get a little fussy, of course, but just keep her distracted for that next hour. And that, once it reaches that 3 hour mark, they'll take in even more food because, of course, they're really hungry at that time. And that will continue to hold them until that next 3 hours. And you just keep doing that until they start getting into that routine. Of course, I know there are certain things that people are just not wanting to do, whether that's the pacifier or bottle feeding her, but just take what you want from this video. But these are just the tips that I have used and gathered to help me. So the first 6 to 8 weeks, you want to make sure that you keep them on an every 3 hours feeding schedule. which would be very beneficial, and start implementing your nap times as well. So the two most important things that I did not mention earlier is figuring out what your sleep schedule is going to be. So whether you want a 7 to 7 schedule, or an 8 to 8 schedule, or a 9 to 9 schedule, figure out what your ideal sleep schedule you want to be. For me, I wanted a 7 to 7 schedule because I knew that I would have class 8 in the morning, and I knew that I wanted to, you know, get her ready, get her dressed and everything like that before I went to school. So this 7 to 7 schedule just works for me personally. I know by 7 p.m. she's in bed and I'm happy. Sometimes I may push her now. I may push her sleeping schedule a little bit further, maybe like 7:38, but no later than that, because I want her to continue on her schedule. And 2 is figuring out your nap times. So you want your baby to sleep, based off this book, you want your baby to sleep 1 hour in the morning and 2-hour naps in the afternoon. However, you don't want them to sleep past a certain time. I'll kind of explain to you like what I did. So 7 o'clock would be when she woke up. So what I would do is at 6:45, I would start getting all the things ready. So like changing her, getting her diaper ready, her bottle ready. That way by 7 o'clock, she is popped the bottle in her mouth, she's awake, she's feeding, whatever. She would play, you know, I would keep her up until about 9 to 10 would be her nap time. 11 o'clock would be her feeding time. She would be up until 1 to 3 o'clock would be her second nap of the day. After that, she would feed, and then by 7 o'clock, she would feed again, bath time, get her ready for bed, and then 7 o'clock, she would be in bed. It was kind of like my schedule. It's been a while, but that was kind of like my ideal schedule that I wanted to have. So start kind of figuring out what your schedule is that you want to have, and map that out. What I did is, once I figured out how I wanted to implement the schedule, I set alarms in my phones. I would set alarms to like feeding her, her nap time, because it's so important to keep her on a strict schedule, because it's going to be so beneficial in the end. So in order to start sleep training your child, the book talks about making sure that she reaches 3 criteria. So in order to start sleep training your child, the book mentions 3 things that your baby needs to, kind of your requirements needs to be before you can actually start implementing the sleep training schedule. So the first thing is the weight. You need your baby to be 9 pounds. 2, they need to eat at least 24 ounces of either breast milk or formula within a 24-hour period. And 3, if your baby is just a singleton, your baby needs to be at least 4 weeks old. And then if they're a twin, you need to be at least 8 weeks old in order for you to start sleep training them. So my daughter was 6 pounds 12 ounces when she was born. So it really took her a while to gain the weight in order for me to start sleep training her. She actually reached like 2 of the milestones before reaching like the birth weight. So I couldn't really start sleep training her because I had to wait for her to gain weight. She needs to reach all 3 criteria at the same time in order for you to start sleep training. So like I said, my daughter was eating 12 ounces. My daughter was already 4 weeks old. However, I couldn't start sleep training her because she was so tiny. She hadn't reached 9 pounds yet. That was like a big thing for me. I had to kind of like wait a while, but I still started like implementing it a little bit more, but not go hard with sleep training. 2 things that I want you to keep in mind when you start sleep training your child. So it takes 3 days to make a good habit, but it also takes 3 days to break a habit and 7 days to break that bad habit that you just made. So that's something that I had always kept in mind when I started sleep training her, is making sure I just stick through it, because sometimes it could be hard with, you want to pick her up, you want to comfort her, but that's a habit that you're trying to, like, you're making, that is something that you don't want. Or I would get into the habit of like, oh, she's crying in the middle of the night and I'm so tired, let me just have her lay next to me. that's a bad habit, because that's something I did not want. I did not want my child to be comfortable with sleeping in the bed with us, because honestly, I can't sleep with her being next to me. Now, even now that she's grown, or bigger, I should say, I can't sleep with her sleeping next to me. So I know every time I like pick her up, especially during those times where she's going through a sleep regression, every time you may rock her to sleep because she's cranky or anything like that, you're building a habit. It's okay to do it like once in a while, but if you do it multiple times in a row, multiple days in a row, and you allow that to be a habit, it's going to be even harder to break. So it's important to just try to stay strong through this process, because it is hard, but it is so beneficial in the end. And that's something that I want to make clear, is this process is difficult, especially when it comes to your methods of like putting them down. You know, the cry out method, if that's something that you're interested in, or not doing the cry out method, those are things that are hard, and it rips at your soul as a mom, you know? So you have to really stay strong and push through, because it is so beneficial in the end. I promise you. Like, I legit, 7 o'clock, she's rubbing her eyes. Like, she was just playing. I pick her up, I put her in her crib. Like, I've already changed her, she's already been fed. I pick her up, I put her in her crib, and I close the door. That's it. There's no shushing her, there's no rocking her, there's nothing. This girl is literally running around playing. I pick her up, I put her in her crib, I shut her door, and she is out like a light. She might whine a little bit, but she's out like a light on her own. And she's to sleep like in minutes. I literally don't have to do anything, and it's so refreshing, because I know it's just easy. And that's something that I want for all of you moms. And this is something that you can start even if like your baby is older. Now, I'm not sure where the process is, but I'm just saying this is something that you can start even if your baby is a little older and you haven't been able to sleep train them when they were younger. This is something that you can definitely implement to get them on a schedule. So when I like go into these next few like topics, I'm sorry this video is super long, but it is hard. Just stay strong as much as you can and push through it. I promise it's going to be smooth sailing. So there's a daytime box and a nighttime box that this book talks about. The daytime box has to do with pacifier, distracting them, you know, basically for their naps, kind of rocking them, bouncing them back and forth. Just things that you can do to distract them for their next feed. Their nighttime box is obviously, you know, preparing them for sleepy time, nighttime, whatever you may call it. So when it comes to the whole nighttime thing, the book really talks about, you know, putting them to bed when they're awake, because you want them to, you know, be familiar with their crib and going to sleep in their crib. The whole goal of putting them down when they're awake is that they get used to putting themselves to sleep. You don't want to rock them to bed, they fall asleep in your arms, and you put them down, because they need to be able to figure out how to put themselves to sleep. Because when they wake up in the middle of the night, you know, like sometimes we do as adults, we wake up in the middle of the night, we can put ourselves back to sleep. Your baby needs to know how to do that on their own without you. So that's the whole idea of putting them down when they're awake, making sure the door is closed, giving them a pacifier. When they do cry, the book talks about waiting a while for them to almost cry it out. And if they're like super uncontrollable and they're crying, then that's when you can like place your hand on their belly, kind of rub them, kind of tell them that you're there, soothe them. And then if they're still like not calming down, pick them up, rock them, put them back down as they're awake, and then start the process all over again. So again, the book talks about it more in detail. I just want to give you cliff notes. However, I tried that for a little bit and it just didn't work for me. I felt like she just had a sense of me being there, and it just didn't really work for me at all. Now, what I did is I did the cry out method. The cry out method, I would definitely recommend people do their own research about the cry out method. I know there's people that says, oh, it sounds cruel, this, that, and the other. It works for me. So the cry out method is you basically just let them cry it out. not like forever, but you let them cry it out. I would let her cry it out for at least like 10 minutes. And then I would go in there, rock her, put her down. She would cry again. But eventually she learned to kind of just soothe herself. The pacifier was like my biggest thing, and she loves the pacifier. I know there are people that are super against it, but the pacifier is huge for me. So her pacifier is her best friend. And sometimes when she did cry, it was because she couldn't find her pacifier or it fell out of her mouth. Swaddling helped for me until she, like, of course, can roll over. So crying out, it took 3 days to get through the cry out method. And the cry out method is rough. It literally rips at your soul. But by day 4, she could put herself to sleep. She would cry, she would put her pacifier in her mouth, and she was good. She would still take a total of 24 ounces in a day, but that's including her night feed. So I had to start weaning that off. So the book has a really good method about weaning the night feeds. So of course you're still jotting down your nightly feeds. So of course during the day you want to start, once they start reaching that criteria, of course during the day you want to start getting them on a 4-hour feeding schedule, which is important. You know, try your rocking them, distracting them, that last hour till the 4th hour, till they reach that 4th hour, and then start getting them on a 4-hour feeding schedule. Now, most kids, like my child, was still having night feedings, and that's pretty much the home stretch of the whole routine, is weaning off that night feeding. So this book talks about, normally they would have, I think by that time I was weaning her off, she had 1 night feeding throughout the night, and it would be early. So I think, so let's just say your child is taking 3 ounces throughout the night. So 3 days in a row, they'll take 3 ounces. On that 4th day, they'll take 2.5 ounces. So for the next 3 days, they'll have 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. And then that 4th day, they'll have 2 ounces. So you do that for the next 3 days, you go down 1/2 ounce. And you do that until you completely wean them off. Now, the most important part about the whole weaning them off their night feeding is if they don't wake up throughout the night for their feeding, don't like wake up. Just let them continue sleeping, which is also important. And if they ever take less than what is in the bottle, that's when you start your new feeding. Does that make sense? So let's say that they normally, so let's say they're on a 2 ounce feeding schedule per night, but this one particular night they took 1 ounce. Well, then that next night, make sure you give up only 1 ounce, and you continue that on until you continue to wean them off. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's basically how the weaning schedule went for me. It took me a full week to wean her off, because I think by either day 6 or day 7, she didn't wake up throughout the night. So I was like, you're not getting any more. And she didn't wake up. And then ever since then, she's been sleeping like a champ. And then the last thing is sleep regression. So whenever she has her moments of sleep regression, I really just make sure I comfort her. There are times, I'm not gonna lie, I will like rock her to sleep, just to comfort her, to put her to sleep, because 9 out of 10, I'm super tired. But that rocking her to sleep doesn't happen 3 days in a row or anything like that. I just kind of keep it to a minimum. One night I may rock her to sleep and just toss her in the bed. Not really toss her, but just put her in the bed. Or what I may even do is just allow her to stay up a little bit longer before I let her go to sleep. Or if she ever woke up in the middle of the night, I would allow her to sleep, stay up for at least an hour, hour and a half, and I would just put her back down. Of course, I just try to continue to implement those same methods as making sure that I don't like rock her to sleep and then lay her in her crib or anything like that. She is now, I mean, it's been such a blessing to be able to get her to sleep within like 2 seconds and not have to put any effort into it. But I definitely do highly recommend this book. Of course, like you see, I did tweak some things along the way. Just because like my baby was, really small when she was born. So it took her a little bit to be able to gain the weight necessary to reach a criteria. I modified, a couple of things to my liking just to make me feel comfortable. as a mom. This is not like the end all be all. You don't have to do every single thing based off this book, but the book gives some really, really good tips. I think there's another book as well. If I happen to figure out the name of it, I'll post it right here or link it down below. But if you're a new mom and you're interested in sleep training, I definitely highly recommend doing it. It will make your life so much easier. Like, my schedule is so predictable. I love it. I know she'll wake up, and the great thing about it is even when she wakes up in the morning, she's so chill. Like, I literally could sleep for an hour and she's just chilling in her bed. She's not crying or anything like that. She's just laying there on her, like, with her pacifier in her mouth, just chilling. And that's something that you want your baby to feel comfortable being in the crib. And you don't have to have your baby sleep in the crib for the first 6 weeks. I mean, my baby did it and she's fine. Like, she still loves her crib, even more so. But definitely get this book. Like I said, my schedule is so predictable. You know, I know when that's another thing I wanted to mention is her nap time. So her naps have changed as she's gotten older. She does take only one nap throughout the day, and that's only for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So she doesn't have like the strict morning nap 1 hour or afternoon nap 2 hours. I apologize, this video is super long. But, and that's just something that has worked for me and our schedule. But yeah, she only naps for once a day, an hour and a half. And she's good. One thing I do implement though is I do not allow her to nap after 3 o'clock. I don't believe this book mentions that. I could be wrong, but I don't let her nap after 3 o'clock just because I really want her to, you know, be sleepy, be tired for bedtime. That's my personal opinion. I know there's people that have their thing, but for me, I don't let her nap after 3, and it just works for me. So, of course, as your baby gets older, you can modify your schedule any way you want, any way you see fit, but it works. Definitely sleep train your child. I cannot stress this enough. If I decide to have another baby, that is something that I definitely will do again, is sleep training. It has made my life so much easier. And yeah, it works. So if you're a new mom, even if you're a mom that's not going back to school or anything like that, definitely look into sleep training your child. I know there are some moms that have commented below and have mentioned how they're looking to go to nursing school and want to know information about sleep training. So I hope this video really did help you, and I hope you got some awesome tips that I have personally used myself. I have been out of town with my daughter, and it's actually worked really. Her sleep schedule has worked fine as well. In the book does talk about, you know, if you're going out of town or if you have any like doctor's appointments, you know, how to modify your schedule accordingly. But if you want more detailed videos about like just my mom tips or anything like that, then definitely let me know. I do feed my baby a vegan diet. So if you're interested I was actually thinking about doing like a series of like, you know, what I feed my child, like not, you know, because she's vegan and things like that. So if you're interested in like a video like that, then definitely comment down below, like this video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I apologize for this video being so long. If you made it to the end of this video, then comment a baby or comment a pregnant mom emoji down below. And yeah, again, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to y'all in another video. Bye, y'all.